I'm wondering what you can tell the people of Texas to expect in terms of long-term recovery efforts. And in particular, you have been feuding with some key congressional leaders. You've also threatened a government shutdown potentially next month over border wall funding. Are these going to hamper long-term, the funding that will be needed long-term for recovery? No, Todd. I think that you're going to see very rapid action from Congress, certainly from the president, and you're going to get your funding. It's a terrible tragedy. Your governor has been absolutely outstanding in the job he's done and his entire staff. And I will say that I just spoke with Greg, and he is working like 24/7. We expect to have requests on our desk fairly soon, and we think that Congress will feel very much the way I feel, in a very bipartisan way. That will be nice, but we think you're going to have what you need, and it's going to go fast. Texas is a unique place. It's a great, great state, great people, and I think you'll be up and running very, very quickly, really very quickly. So, yeah, I think you're going to be in fantastic shape. I've already spoken to Congress, and everybody feels for you and feels for what you're going through, but at the same time, they have great respect, even additional respect for the state, because you've handled it so well, so brilliantly. But it's a long road, still pouring, still a lot of rain. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. I've heard the words epic, I've heard historic. That's what it is. But you will have what you want, I think, very, very quickly. And Todd, you can ask a question to the president. Sure, thank you. Does this situation make you reconsider the possibility of a government shutdown next month? I think it has nothing to do with it, really. I think this is separate. This is going to go really very, very quickly. Again, I've spoken to many of the people we're talking about, and everybody feels the same way I do.
I have a question to President Trump, if I may. As President Niinistö told, he's been raising the issue about the security situation in the Baltic region and the Baltic Sea specifically, and has been concerned about the Russian planes flying there without transponders on. So my question to you, Mr. President, would be, Mr. Trump, would you consider Russia as a security threat? Thank you. Well, I consider many countries as a security threat, unfortunately, when you look at what's going on in the world today. As you know, a few weeks ago, our great Vice President, Mike Pence, who's right here, was in the region and spent quite a bit of time there. We consider that a very, very important part of the world. We have great relationships there. We have a great relationship with Finland. And so I would consider many countries threats, but these are all threats that we'll be able to handle if we have to. Hopefully we won't have to handle them, but if we do, we will handle them. Can I have a follow-up, as he had also? So if the situation in the Baltic were to escalate, what would the U.S. be ready to do in that unfortunate circumstances? Well, we are very protective of that region. That's all I can say. We are very, very protective. We have great friends there, great relationships there. We are extremely protective.
Mr. President, thank you so much. President Niinistö, I have a question for you as well, but if I could start with President Trump. In the middle of Hurricane Harvey hitting on Friday night, you chose to pardon former Sheriff Joe Arpaio. I wonder if you could tell us what was behind your thinking for issuing a pardon for the sheriff, and as well, what do you say to your critics, even some in your own party, who say it was the wrong thing to do?
Well, a lot of people think it was the right thing to do, John. And actually, in the middle of a hurricane, even though it was a Friday evening, I assumed the ratings would be far higher than they would be normally. You know, the hurricane was just starting. And I put it out that I had pardoned, as we say, Sheriff Joe. He's done a great job for the people of Arizona. He's very strong on borders, very strong on illegal immigration. He is loved in Arizona. I thought he was treated unbelievably unfairly when they came down with their big decision to go get him right before the election voting started, as you know, and he lost in a fairly close election. He would have won the election, but they just hammered him just before the election. I thought that was a very, very unfair thing to do. When I mentioned him the other night, you saw the massive crowd we had. The people went crazy when I said, what do you think of Sheriff Joe, or something to that effect. The place went absolutely crazy when I was in Arizona last week. And as far as pardons are concerned, I actually did this just before the meeting because I assumed that somebody would ask me the question. I didn't know it would be you, as you can attest. You didn't even know you were going to be called. But I thought I would. And,
you know, Sheriff Joe is a great veteran of the military, great law enforcement person, somebody that's won many, many elections in the state of Arizona. But I wanted to look at some of the other people that were pardoned over the years. And if you look at, as an example, President Clinton pardoned Mark Rich, who was charged with crimes going back decades, including illegally buying oil from Iran while it held 53 American hostages, wasn't allowed to do that, selling to the enemies of the United States. He was pardoned after his wife donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Clintons. Then you have dangerous criminals. President Clinton pardoned Susan Rosenberg, a member of the weathered underground, charged as part of a bank robbery that led to a guard and 2 police officers being killed. Drug dealers. President Clinton commuted the sentence of Carlos Vignali, a central player in a cocaine ring that stretched from California to Minnesota. Criminal leaker. You've heard the word leaker? President Obama commuted the sentence of Chelsea Manning, who leaked countless sensitive and classified documents to WikiLeaks, perhaps and others. But horrible, horrible thing that he did, commuted the sentence, and perhaps pardoned. President Obama commuted the sentence of Oscar Lopez Rivera, who was charged as part of a violent independence group from Puerto Rico responsible for 28 Chicago area bombings and many deaths in the 1970s and 1980s. Sheriff Joe is a patriot. Sheriff Joe loves our country. Sheriff Joe protected our borders. And Sheriff Joe was very unfairly treated by the Obama administration, especially right before an election that he would have won. So, and he was elected many times. So I stand by my pardon of Sheriff Joe, and I think the people of Arizona who really know him best would agree with me. Thank you very much. I know there might be a couple of more questions, but do you want to take one more? Would you want to take one more? Go ahead, pick.
Well,
Go ahead.
Please.
Again? You're going to give her the same one?
No, she's not the same lady.
Go ahead.
They are sitting side by side.
We have a lot of blonde women in Finland.
Go ahead.
Mr. President Trump, what kind of role do you see as Finland having in the U.S.-Russia relations? Do you think Finland could be of assistance, helping U.S. get better relations with Russia?
Well, I hope that we do have good relations with Russia. I say it loud and clear. I've been saying it for years. I think it's a good thing if we have great relationships, or at least good relationships with Russia. That's very important, and I believe someday that will happen. It's a big country. It's a nuclear country. It's a country that we should get along with, and I think we will eventually get along with Russia. Finland is respected by Russia. Finland has been free of Russia, really, just about one of the few countries in the region that has been for 100 years. And Russia has a lot of respect for Finland, so that's always good. But I think Finland is doing fine with Russia, and I hope that the United States will someday be able to have a very good relationship with Russia also. I think that's very good for world peace and for other things. Thank you.
As a follow-up, if Finland's relationship with Russia were to deteriorate, would the U.S., what kind of assistance would the U.S. be willing to give to Finland bilaterally if we needed it?
Well, as I said before, that our relationship with Finland is a very close one, and we're always ready to help Finland. One of the things that is happening is you're purchasing large amounts of our great F-18 aircraft from Boeing, and it's one of the great planes, one of the great fighter jets, and you're purchasing lots of other military equipment, and I think purchasing very wisely. I know all of the military equipment, and I actually agree with everything you purchased. We talked about it before. I think Finland's really a respected country militarily. It's got large armed forces for its size as a country, really proportionally probably one of the biggest in the world, if you think of it.
I guess so.
But they're very respected militarily, and they're respected beyond militarily. So hopefully it'll never come to that. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Trey Inks with One America News. In the aftermath of Hurricane Harvey, do you believe that cutting FEMA's budget is the right thing to do?
No, I think what's going to happen is the FEMA money is relatively small compared to the rebuilding money. So FEMA, right now, we have the money necessary for Texas and Louisiana if we need. But the real number, which will be many billions of dollars, will go through Congress. I think it'll happen very quickly. It'll go very fast. And I want to congratulate you on the network. It's a great network.
Thank you. If I may follow up on one other question from earlier. The southern border wall, is your plan still to have Mexico pay for the wall?
Yes, it will. One way or the other, Mexico is going to pay for the wall. That's right. It
sir,
may be through reimbursement, but one way or the other, Mexico will pay for the wall. We're right now negotiating NAFTA. In my opinion, Mexico's been very difficult, as they should be. Why wouldn't they be? They had a sweetheart deal for so many years. It's one of the great deals of all time for them, one of the worst trade deals ever signed. I guarantee you, Mr. President, Finland would never have signed NAFTA with Russia or whoever you wanted to. This is not a deal that you would want to sign. This is not a deal that Finland would know about. NAFTA is one of the worst trade deals ever signed at any time, anywhere in the world. And I can understand why Mexico is being difficult, because why wouldn't they be? They've had it their way. But no, Mexico will pay for the wall. It may be through reimbursement. We need the wall very badly. As you know, Mexico has a tremendous crime problem, tremendous, one of the number 2 or 3 in the world. And that's another reason we need it. And just to add on, tremendous drugs are pouring into the United States at levels that nobody's ever seen before. This happened over the last 3 to 4 years in particular. The wall will stop much of the drugs from pouring into this country and poisoning our youth. So we need the wall. It's imperative. We may fund it through the United States, but ultimately Mexico will pay for the wall.
If I may follow up, on Tuesday you said if we have to close down our government, we are building that wall.
Well, I hope that's not necessary.
Let me just tell you.
Yeah, I hope that's not necessary. If it's necessary, we'll have to see, but I hope it's not necessary. The wall is needed from the standpoint of security. The wall is needed from the standpoint of the drug scourge, what's coming through and through that area, through the areas that we're talking about. As you know, I have General Kelly here. We stopped traffic coming through 78%. It's going to be, I think, 81% this quarter, which is a record. In other administrations, if they stopped it just a little bit, like 1 or 2 or 3%, they considered that a great thing. We're up to almost 80%. We'll soon be over 80%. But you need the wall to do the rest, and you need the wall for the drugs. The drugs are a tremendous problem. The wall will greatly help with the drug problem, and ultimately that's a good thing for Mexico also. We have a very good relationship with Mexico, but I will say that dealing with them, I've always said, I've talked about NAFTA, you've heard me many times, and I've said that we will either terminate it or renegotiate it. We're in the process of renegotiating right now, renegotiating the deal. I believe that you will probably have to at least start the termination process before a fair deal can be arrived at, because it's been a one-sided deal. And this includes Canada, by the way. Great respect for Canada, great love for Canada. But it's been a one-sided deal for Canada and for Mexico. And the United States workers, all of these incredible people who have lost their jobs because of NAFTA, they're not going to be suffering any longer. It's been unfair for too long. So we will build the wall, and we will stop a lot of things, including the drugs are pouring in at levels like nobody's ever seen. We'll be able to stop them once the wall is up. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.